Hi, genuine today's thought. And well, if you're a regular visitor to this site, you may have noticed that the background behind me, well, that's where backgrounds are, right? They're behind you, is different from the one I usually use. There's a reason for that, in case you're curious. That I have two computers. One is in my home office, and that's the one I usually use. The other one, this one, today's computer, is in my music studio. You can see the neck of my guitar over there if you look at it. And by the way, I write songs, I perform them, and you can find links to my music in the description below this video. Okay, enough of a plug. But so that's why I am using this one today, because there's a problem with the other computer. Anyways, I want to talk about taxes today. And we're going to start out with one of our, well, probably the favorite philosopher of our liberal friends, Karl Marx, who famously said that history repeats itself, first as tragedy and second as farce, or by farce. Now, I don't know how many, if we're up to the umpteenth time of history repeating ourselves, which is that when you cut taxes, you increase the deficits, and what this is all about is, of course, that one of the first orders of business, or main orders of business, of this Trump administration that's coming in, it cannot get here soon enough for me, but don't get me started on that and all the damage that Biden is trying to do in his last couple of weeks on the way out. But, yeah, don't get me started. Anyways, so taxes. So now we're hearing the same old arguments that, well, if we can't cut, well, it's just keeping tax cuts that we already have, tax rate cuts that we already have. And if they expire, we're going to have the middle class of people that our Democrat friends supposedly want to help. They're going to be faced with a massive tax increase. But we always get the same argument, well, we have to offset the tax cuts or whatever, or they're going to increase the deficit. Never mind that these tax cuts that we want to extend, they have so far, the last tax receipts that we got were up 48% or 47%. I've heard two figures, 47, 48. Anyways, the point is that Trump cut the tax rates and revenues went up. That's because you leave more money in the hands of the people. They'll spend it better than the government, and they'll invest it or use it to start businesses, and you get more, and existing businesses can use the money to hire more people, yada, 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 and you get, at the end of the day, more tax receipts. Now, obviously, you can't, if you reduce them to zero, then you're going to have to get taxes some other way. Then you would not get any taxes. But if you go to it's called the Laffer curve. If you go to 100%, you're going to have massive tax avoidance, and no one's going to pay 100% of their income in taxes. So the point is that you can start from zero and you get more and more and more revenue, but then you reach a point where you get less and less and less and less revenue. And the balancing act is, where is that point? And the point is, the main point, we are not at that point right now, because Trump lowered the tax rates and revenues went up. But not just that, there have been previous tax rate decreases, and every time we are now tax revenues now, if they are higher than they were under these recent Trump tax cuts, then they have to be, by just simple definition and common sense, higher than after the Coolidge tax cuts, or the Harding tax cuts, I think it was Harding, and the Kennedy tax cuts, and the Reagan tax cuts, and well, on and on and on. So I'm going to turn the floor, because they talk about this trickle. They use it for Reagan, trickle down economics, which was not his term. Anyways, the point is that I'm going to turn the floor over now to Ronald Reagan to talk about, because he got the same argument. The same question I'm going to show you right now, a press conference. You can hear a kind of detailed question from Helen Thomas, who was a correspondent at the time. I want you to hear the whole question, and then you can hear Reagan's detailed explanation with facts and figures of, first of all, the results of his tax cuts and why there is the cause of the deficit problem, which I've already told you in the title to this vlog, spending. The tax cuts always, after the tax cuts, revenues always go up, but the spending goes up even more, which is why you don't want to adopt the solution of raising taxes to eliminate or reduce a deficit, because Congress just spends the money, especially when Democrats are in charge. But you've heard enough from me, and now I'm turning it over to Reagan. Here he is, Reagan press conference, getting a question on this specific issue, his specific answer with the numbers.
And Helen, you had the first question.
President, the world is applauding the initiative that the new detente that you and President Gorbachev have initiated. But on the debit side, as you leave office, the nation is saddled with a $2.6 trillion debt, an enormous deficit caused perhaps by the tripling of military spending tax cut. How does all this jibe with the goals that you set 8 years ago? And I'd like to follow up.
Helen, I have to tell you, it is incorrect to say that all of this happened because we cut taxes and the things that have happened in these last few years. I've said many times and pointed out that over 58 years in which the opposing party held the House of Representatives, 54 of those 58 years. And in those years, there were only 8 scattered years in which there was a balanced budget. And I was among a great chorus out on the hustings speaking out against this consistent and constant deficit spending. And each time the answer came back that it was necessary to maintain prosperity, and the other part of the answer was, and it's meaningless because we owe it to ourselves. Now, beginning in 1965, in the middle 60s, when President Johnson's program of the war on poverty was put in place, in the 15 years from then until 1980, the budget increased to just about 5 times what it had been 15 years before, and the deficit increased to 58 times what it had been. So we came in inheriting literally deficit spending built into the structure of government. Now, with regard to the tax cuts, yes, the rates were cut, but since 1981, our revenue from those taxes has increased by $375 billion. And our projection, and we've been very accurate on our projections, our projection for 1990 and the budget we're working on now calls for another $80 billion increase in our revenues with the rates as they presently are. If you look back beyond us to Coolidge and his tax cuts, if you look to the Kennedy tax cut in his administration, which was very similar to the one that then we later put in every case, it did not reduce the government revenues, it raised them. So it is maintaining this and continuing to get back to a reduced spending, because the spending increase, while the revenue was increasing $375 billion, the spending increase was close to $100 billion more than that increase in revenues.
There it is, the numbers from the great man himself, and he was a great man and a great president. I lived through the entire Reagan administration, so I just want to, I miss him. It was so nice to me. That's what a real president acts like. That's when you call acting presidential. That is it. That's it. You just saw it. But getting back to what he said, as he said, he cut the tax rates, revenues went up over $300 billion. And remember, this is in late 1980s numbers, okay, mid to late 1980s. So adjust for inflation, and that's an enormous increase. That is an enormous increase. And He also mentioned, and this was the problem, so the taxes revenues went up $300 billion, but the spending went up much more. And as I said, that it's a spending problem, and that's why I got my fingers crossed. I am praying, hoping, because I've never seen this. You saw some of it during the Clinton administration, to be fair. Clinton and Gingrich working together, Newt Gingrich, Speaker of the House at that time, and Clinton cut taxes. He cut the capital gains tax, and again, revenues went up. Okay, so Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter. You cut, at least so far, you cut taxes, and the revenues go up. And what we should be doing is cutting taxes every year until we reach that point where the revenues don't go, where the revenues stay steady, let's say, and that would be the tax rate, the correct tax rate, which I can throw this in, a preview of coming attractions, because I keep meaning to do this, is that the best idea would be a flat tax, a simple flat tax. I don't want to get into details now, but there is, except to say that there is actually a real chance that we could have a simple flat tax. And I'll tell you why. I can't tell you when. I can just tell you why we may have one. Why the odds are really good. But getting back to so I can just end on end the vlog today. The problem is spending, and I was saying the Doge boys, the Doge twins, Ramaswamy and Musk. I really hope they succeed this time. And Clinton, I was saying that Clinton worked with Gingrich, and they balanced the budget. We had a balanced budget for 1 year, I think, and that was the first time since Richard Nixon in 1969 we had a balanced budget. No deficit that year. Anyways, I'm really hopeful that these Doge boys are going with their celebrity and hopefully a public testimony before Congress that we really will have the spending cuts that we need to balance the budget and get out of this $36 trillion in debt the last time I checked, and probably higher by now or very soon, and these deficits. That is the only way. You have to keep money in the economy so people can grow the economy. That's how we get out of this, and it's better for the American people. I mean, what's wrong with keeping your own money? If you don't want to keep your own money, let me know in the comments, and I'll figure a way for you to send your money to me, because I will gladly use it. And that's my thought. That's my thought for today. Thanks for stopping by. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. Your comments are welcome in the comment section below the video. Share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it. But most of all, come back and see me again. I would love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.